Hi everybody, it's Stephanie Mo Davis. Today I want to talk about the disease and the illness of our institutions and systems. This is nothing new. This is something that we've all been discussing for a very long time. And I just want to give you my perspective really quick on what's going on and maybe some possible ways to have an alternative perspective or a broadened perspective about what is actually going on. So for the longest time, depending on what your trade is, what your skill is, what your career is, what you do in the world, I'm sure you have discussed, complained, iterated about how the system, the way that it works, there's issues, there's problems. Very often we'll say, it's broken, right? So you all know that I work a lot within the abstract of healthcare. And this is something that has been going on for a very long time. Obviously now more than ever before in history, but healthcare is broken. It's broken. Medical system is broken. It's broken. And it's something that we've just accepted and complied with and continue to participate in. And now we're seeing that more than ever, we are losing people. We're losing people who've gone into a craft or a skill or a trade that they're actually passionate about. It may even be their calling. They're actually leaving their calling because the system is so unhealthy or toxic. So this is a major issue because not only is it healthcare, but it's many other large institutions and systems, right? It's government, it's banking, it's education, it's healthcare. This is a potential for a major catastrophic risk for all of these systems to be breaking down simultaneously. So is there good news? I don't know, I guess that has to be seen. But what I do want to say is in my niche, in what I'm involved in, which is really the healthcare sector of all of this, is let's discuss what an institution is, who makes up the institution, how and why it can become toxic, and ways in which we can start to mitigate, rebuild, or reconstruct what needs to happen in order for us to have healthcare. Okay, so we all know that there's mass shortages of nurses. Procedures are being canceled. Now physicians are leaving. And again, it's quite sad because for many of them, not all of them, this may and was their calling. So it's something that, we need to try to mitigate. It's a problem if we don't start to actually talk about it and we just continue to comply or leave altogether. So one thing is, we always like to blame the system or the institution. My colleague and I have talked about this a million times, the shadow of the system. What really is it that's making it so unhealthy and so toxic for the individuals that work within it? What is it? And what we've come down to and distilled is that are there pernicious factors or individuals or leaders or CEOs or some part of the institution that is willfully not being holistic in the way that they're running their system. Yes, I'm sure there are pernicious people who care about the money and the metrics and the power, and that's the only thing that they're considered, that they feel is important. But I would like to think that the majority of those people actually aren't pernicious. It's just that they have their own issues in life. They are going through their own problems, and what's happening is they're not aware of what's going on within their holistic environment. So then we get into work, and it's already running in a very fragmented way that we know how it's been running for a very long time. We've been aware of the dysfunction of it. Now all of a sudden it's too hard to handle, it's too much. And all of the blame is being pushed on one or two avenues within the system, right? Maybe you individually are taking your frustrations out on somebody you work with. Maybe you're taking it out on, the floor that you work on or the department you work in. Maybe you're taking it out on your patients, which is happening. I didn't realize it actually happens so often, but I'm now that I'm researching and communicating with a lot of doctors and following a lot of physicians and practitioners online, the amount of blame and shaming to the patients from the practitioner point of view is really disturbing. Again, this is because we're already so full. Our tank is totally full with unawareness, stressors, things that have accumulated, things that we've complied with that we just no longer have the room to deal with and to cope with at this point. So we're projecting our blame onto all sorts of factors. So what really needs to be understood here is that there's a potential for a catastrophic risk of all of these institutions breaking down. So somebody, some individuals must group together who, number one, still have energy left, which is important and rare, and aren't in a state of drastic polarization or negativity or projection, because we can't build anything or create anything actually from that energy. So finding the right resonance of people who still have and have been doing work, not only within their field, but doing work on themselves. So they have the energy, resources, to actually create with other like-minded people ways in which we can mitigate, rebuild, build, implement the things that need to be done so we don't have a bigger, massive problem that could be coming downstream from where we're at. I know very often it's hard for us to perceive the future. And when things are really difficult, we just hope that there's going to be a better reality. And I'm with you on that. But the issue is that it's not going to just fall out of the air. People have to create it. People have to bind together who have the commitment and devotion to the first principles of what it is that they're passionate about, to actually have these thought experiments and start to create from a foundation up, which is a hell of a lot of work if you're burnout. So the first step, if you're listening to this, and no matter where you work, is you got to start to look at yourself, especially if you're blaming other people. We tend to be, I know this is a little bit of tough love, but we tend to be in a collective state of kind of shadow right now and rebellious adolescence emotionally. We, especially in the world of, academics, we've developed our intellect and our left brain so skillfully. We've avoided a lot of the right brain and the emotional literacy and IQ and the ability to truly have discussion without bias and Socratic dialogue and hold this space of not getting emotional when we have to talk about these very difficult issues. So we need to elevate our EQ. I talked about this before, especially if you're in the world of academics. You need to be balanced within yourself and in a state of non-polarization so you can build something healthy. If we don't do that, we continue to put and allocate energy into things that are going to end up being the same or will be destroyed. So you got to be really careful, diligent of what you're allocating your energy towards. If you're angry, frustrated, projecting frustration, shame, and blame and guilt, you're not ready. You're not ready to build anything. You must still sit, deeply be contemplative, do the self-work, so you can find a state where you're building something, putting energy and resources and allocating those resources into something that's not only going to sustain itself in this difficult time, but something that actually is coming from a state of love, wisdom, and virtue, so it can be better than the things that we are very displeased with at this point. So our institutions are sick. Our institutions have an illness. And as we know, the remedies that we've had have not been the antidote. We need to actually start to do this work within ourselves. We need to do something different. Okay, you need to talk to different people. You need to connect with people that have different point of views. You need to broaden your perception of what it means to come from a place of balance and holistic intelligence. You need to do this work within first. And it's really important, guys, because again, not to be a Debbie Downer, because that's definitely not me. But if you sit and you see where we're at and you start to think of the possibilities of where this is going, if we need to put Band-Aids on things last minute, it's not going to be sustainable. There's not going to be a true foundation. So something to think about. The institutions are sick. We're in a state of shadow. They've become so fragmented, we don't even know where to start to begin to heal within the system. And what's happening is the weight of all of this is now too much for the individual to handle. The ego that comes with the career, the finances, the the societal recognition, whatever it may be, the feeling of helping and serving, whatever it was that you were getting out of your calling, your career, is not even working at this point. So it's time to really, if you want to be on board with starting to create institutions, businesses, a life with true meaning and purpose that's balanced, to maybe create a new way, a new system, a new model to help to contribute to a new institution. For me and the people that I'm working with, a new medical model. This is big stuff, guys. This is really big stuff. But if nobody's going to do it, we're going to have a problem. And, you know, I'm actually not a physician. I'm a very long-term patient, and my background is in something completely different than this, but this is what I was called to do, and the commitment and the devotion and the energy is there within me to put into this, so I know that it's right. So guys, it's time for us to reclaim our meaning and our purpose, to do our own self-work, so we can really start to mitigate what may be coming down the road. Let's start building the foundational principles and the systems now. So we got to find our people, which means that you need to do the self-work so you can just naturally attune with that resonance of these people to be able to handle this sort of a building process. So, all right, thanks guys, thanks for watching, and I will be back soon.